And welcome to Thrift Shop Biography. This is the one about Roald Dahl. Thank you. Why is it so hard to say his name? How do you say it?
Roald Dahl.
Roald Dahl.
Yes.
Why is it so weird?
Like Roald and Dahl, like you eat in the Indian restaurant.
Yeah, Dahl, that's not the hard bit.
Yeah.
It's Roald.
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 Yeah, like you're really old. Roald.
Roald Dahl. This week, it might come as a surprise to you, but we've been reading the autobiography of... What did you think of Roald Dahl before you read this book?
Well, I knew how to pronounce his name at the start. He's the most beloved author of children's books. The finest there are, some may say. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda, Fantastic Mr. Fox. Oh, the one, Danny the Champion of the World, James and the Giant Peach. Oh my God, amazing. Plus, when we were kids, it was Tales of the Unexpected.
Oh, yeah. Which Joan Collins was in.
Whoa! It's all tied together. And I also knew that he wrote the script for the screenplay for a couple of Bond films. Can't remember which.
Did he really?
Goldfinger? Yep.
Okay.
And I knew he lived in Great Missenden. Well, that's where he died. That's in Buckinghamshire.
Right.
And I've seen his grave.
Okay.
And I shed a little tear because it's really beautiful. It leads you to it with these concrete footprints and there's a little poem around it.
Okay.
It's lovely. So I need you know,
quite okay. All right.
He's a legend of British author people, isn't he?
Yeah.
What did you know?
I knew he
All
wrote
that.
books, very famous books, none of which I've read.
What?
I've never read a Roald Dahl. I've never read a Roald Dahl book.
Wow.
Not even when I was a kid.
But you've seen, or you must have seen the odd film like
No.
Charlie and the Chocolate. Oh, wow.
I've never seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Wow.
Never seen James and the Giant Peach. Is that film?
There's a new Matilda out now. It's a musical.
Yeah, I'm not going to watch that.
No, you're probably not, but it's amazing. And he's got away with words, hasn't he?
I know that he's hugely famous. What I've read this week is the first Roald Dahl book that I've read.
Wow.
But it felt like I was reading a children's book.
Did it?
Yeah, even though the contents weren't necessarily for children.
He's got a lovely way with words.
Well, he should, because it's his job.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting how there's no sign at all that he's going to become a writer.
Within the text.
Within his life at this point.
Yeah.
It's not even like he's interested. He writes
Do you know
home,
what? When did he become a writer?
I don't know.
That's
Good
an interesting point. It didn't even occur to me that he's Roald Dahl, the famous author, because there's nothing in this, and it ends when he's like 25, 26, and no mention of being a writer.
No, he writes the odd letter home, but he has to be careful because they're getting censored because it's the war. And his big interest is photography. And he takes some brilliant photos. I mean, this book, he takes his camera everywhere. So you never know he's going to become Roald Dahl, author of capturing children's imaginations. To this day, though, you know, the modern young generation of today is still reading his books.
Yes.
And Matilda's out now and there's tons of it. He hasn't gone away. He's timeless, which is pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, if you like them.
There's no sign of that would be this man's destiny.
No sign
you
whatsoever.
Never know.
Yeah. So, Roald Dahl, it's a funny name, isn't it?
It is a funny name to us English people because he's Norwegian.
Norwegian?
Yes.
His dad was called Harold Dahl.
Harold Dahl.
Yeah. Gosh, the book begins straight away with his dad having an awful accident at the age of 40. It made me feel quite ill.
Yeah.
But Roald Dahl writes, it's just such a lovely way of writing that you think, oh, this is a nice little chapter about some childhood japes. And actually his dad's 14, falls off the roof. He's doing some tiling on the roof, breaks his elbow. The doctor turns up on a horse and cart drunk, misdiagnoses him, thinks he's dislocated his shoulder, pulls two men in off the street. Oh my God. And they yank his arm because the doctor thinks it's a dislocated shoulder. Actually, he's got a broken elbow. The bone bursts through the skin. Ends up with Roald Dahl's dad having to have his arm amputated.
Yeah.
That's how this book begins.
Yes, nice start. But you're right, he is such a lovely storyteller. You just read it all in a really nice way.
Yeah, no, it does give you a certain false sense of security. It's like, oh, it's just a really nice little book, and all of a sudden his dad's having his arm amputated on page 2.
Yeah, that's true. And they're a family of achievers. because the sons go off and they all achieve things separately.
I was amazed. They were
cool.
so young when they left.
Yeah, they were.
They're in Norway, and him and his brother, who is a similar age, they kind of think, oh, not much going on for us in Norway.
Yeah, we won't get very far.
Yeah, they leave and go to foreign countries at the age 17? Of like 16, 17. Yeah, and then when they get to France, they decide they're going to be better off on their own, so they split up.
It's brilliant. They're achievers.
They really are.
And they succeed. And yeah, Harold married and had 2 kids and was very happy in Britain.
He's a shipbroker. He starts a shipbroking business, and the main thing that he makes the most of his profit is coal, and the best place for coal is Wales. So he goes over to Wales and starts his shipbroking business there and does really, really well. And meets a nice young lady.
Marries, has 2 kids, and his wife dies. And he wants to remarry, but he doesn't find many contenders who will take on 2 kids.
Yeah, right.
So he goes on a little tour to Norway and meets a Norwegian woman who he ships back to his life in Britain, but they're obviously a very good couple. They have 4 children. By the time he dies, she's pregnant with the 5th. Mm-hmm. And he dies because their 7-year-old daughter dies, and the grief kills him. He gives up.
Yeah, I know. That's quite shocking, really, because he does have 4 other children, 5 other children.
I know.
But after his 7-year-old daughter dies, doesn't Roald Dahl's daughter die later in life?
He just drops it in. When I was older, my 7-year-old daughter also died.
Oh, God.
Just drops that in.
That's awful.
I know. He just drops it in and moves on.
By the time Roald Dahl is 3 years old, he's lost his big sister and his dad.
Yeah, and he's got 4 siblings and just a mother to keep him going.
By the way, the mother's called Sophie. Do you think Sophie Dahl is named after her? Of course. Yeah, she has to be.
Yeah, and the little girl in the BFG.
It's called Sophie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He gets sent to school. Llandaff Cathedral School, age 7 to 9. There's a reason he left at 9, because of an evil headmaster.
Gosh, there's a lot of evil headmasters in this book.
I don't think there was a nice teacher in the universe in bygone eras.
It makes me feel very lucky that I never went to a boarding school in pre-war England.
I know. A lot of damaged people who were running our country, basically, because that's where they all end up.
I mean, half of the country must have been suffering from PTSD. I mean, it was child abuse on a grand scale.
Absolutely.
I'm shocked reading this book, like totally angered and...
Yeah, and people say, oh, Britain's got the best schools. It's also got the most evil schools.
There's something very perverted about it
really
as well.
Wrong.
Anyway.
He got his first whipping. It was kind of earned because of their sweet shop fiasco.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And he actually says the sweet shop was the centre of their world.
Of course, when you're like 6 years old or 7 years old, the sweet shop is the most exciting place on earth.
It's everything you're saving up for, it's all your spare money, it's everything.
Yeah.
The woman who runs it is called Mrs. Pratchett, which is a brilliant name. And she's a horror, I quote.
It does make you think, why is she running a sweet shop if she hates children so much? They're your customers.
They're going to be your customers.
Yeah.
So they hatch a plan. Oh, they find a dead mouse.
Yes, they do.
That's how it starts.
I mean, the way they execute it is brilliant. When her back is turned, what jar of sweets is it? It's a Gobstoppers, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
They open up the jar of Gobstoppers and they put the dead mouse into the jar of Gobstoppers. And then they go home.
Yeah, and then in the morning... They go past the sweet shop and it's closed, and it's never closed.
Never
so
closed.
You look through the window, Gobstoppers all over the floor, smashed glass, and the mouse. And they're like, shit, maybe she's died. Maybe she died of a heart attack. You've killed her, they say to Roald Dahl. You've killed her. So he thinks he's a murderer. For a good few hours, he thinks he's a murderer, which is terrible. And they go to school, and then they get told to line up in the, playground. Now, if you've seen Matilda the film, this is exactly what happens in Matilda the film.
It?
But not about the sweets, about something else. But they line up all around the edge of the playground, which is what happens here. I guess that was like really horrifying, like army almost.
Yeah.
So it's just a line, like there's no one hiding behind anyone. And she comes out and goes along the line, identifying, it was them. She pulls them all out. It's like a firing squad. And it was like a firing squad.
Yeah, for sure. And then they all go to the headmaster's office.
Yeah.
And get a good whipping.
Good, nasty caning on the ass.
Oh my God, it's just...
And what makes it even worse is she was watching.
Yeah, encouraging it.
Yeah, get them good. Do it harder.
Yeah, make them pay.
Oh,
I mean, what they did was awful,
Yeah.
right? Because I think sometimes in this book, kids are getting whipped for like seemingly no reason at all, really, just because the teachers kind of, this is the most stupid reasons. But I do think putting a dead mouse into the sweet jar is a punishable offence.
Yeah, they did a crime. Usually they do nothing and get whipped.
Yes.
This time they did a crime.
But still, the severity of the whipping does not. I mean, you shouldn't be doing it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, give
Thank
them
God.
detention and lines or whatever.
Yeah, we don't whip children anymore. They get a car and they stick his sister in it and she crashes it.
But hang on a minute, that's amazing that she just got a car and the man who delivered the car just showed her how it worked.
Yeah.
And it's like, there you
And
go.
off you go.
Off you go.
Yeah.
One thing I know from my childhood is that the older people who were driving around like in the 1980s never had a driving test. Still,
my grandpa never had a driving test and he drove his entire life because he got
Really?
it before they needed him.
Yeah, so when they brought the driving tests in, if you already had a car and were driving, you got given a license. You didn't need to take the test.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But she did.
She needed to take
She got in that car.
Yeah.
And at the first bend, she crashed it.
I was quite shocked because I thought this was going to be, and this is the Roald Dahl's way of writing, I thought this was going to be
in a car.
another Jolly Japes. They're going, and then all of a sudden on the bench, they go through the windscreen.
Everybody in that car went through various windscreens and were fine and landed in various hedges, except him who had his nose sliced off.
Oh my God.
And his mum picked up his nose and took him to the doctors and they sewed it back on.
Oh my God.
Crazy. I know how that happened. That's one of his little anecdotes.
You begin to start reading these lovely little chapters and they start to think, oh no, what's going to happen?
Yeah, and it's not traumatising because of the way he tells it.
Yeah.
It's really nice. I bet there's a lot of young people who this will be their first autobiography type of book.
Oh, I wouldn't let a child read this book, would you?
I don't know, but it isn't for children. It's just for everybody.
But
it's for everybody.
That's the thing, because it's quite a small book as well. Yeah. And if you saw that in a bookshop with Roald Dahl on it, you'd buy it for your grandchild.
I think that's good. I think...
What, whippings and car crashes?
I do. Well, look at... Lots of kids' stories are dark about watching out for adults who are evil to you and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, kids should know to be wary of evil adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he was a kid and that was happening to him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely let him read it. But it's good for adults as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I never expected to enjoy this as much as I did.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Bigger school is worse.
Well, do you know the thing about the bigger school is, okay, we've got the headmaster inflicting these punishments, but there seems to be a kind of system of abuse, whereas the older boys, which they call bozers, actually are inflicting their own rules.
They teach the children to be evil to the slightly younger children.
Yeah.
And that's actually a part of the system.
It's horrific, isn't it?
It's really awful. We have to mention this particular headmaster who took great pleasure in whipping these boys.
I hate this.
There's this whole description.
Well, he said this teacher was watching everybody like a hawk, and this teacher was waiting for the slightest thing so he could discipline them.
Yeah.
And so they're all terrified to even breathe, and they're all sat there studying, and Roald Dahl breaks a nib of his pen. And he's writing, and he's writing the essay about a day in the life of a penny. And I can imagine he gets to the end of page 1.
He'd love to do that.
Yeah, he breaks his nib, and he's desperate to finish it, but he can't. So he just asks the neighbouring boy if he has a spare nib. And the teacher gets him for talking, and he's trying to say, I just need a nib so I can finish the essay. But it's enough for him to take him to the headmaster's office, and the headmaster whips him.
Yeah.
I mean, so severely. And he says that he notices that the door is open, and actually that teacher who brought him there was stood outside the door. I mean, it's so sadistic.
I know, and he describes that 55 years later, when he sits on a hard surface for too long, he starts to feel the heartbeat in his arse again.
Yeah, in this...
From that injury. That's an injury.
50 years later.
Yeah.
I mean, all of those men should be in prison.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was so widely accepted by everyone.
Yeah.
I don't know why those boys haven't gone back to that school and burnt it down.
Yeah, I know.
Not that school, all the schools.
Yeah.
I don't believe this was just happening in this one school.
Yeah, but I mean, don't forget Morrissey was talking about this sort of thing. And that's in the 70s.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this went on and on and on.
Yeah.
We're lucky it just fizzled out pretty much.
It's weird. Oh, I just don't get how it was ever acceptable. Okay, I kind of even get like a knucklehead or a clip round the ear roll, even a spanking maybe, but actually
Inflicting
with
injuries.
with a cane, with a weapon.
Yeah, it is a weapon.
Yeah, and you're a grown man hitting that with all of your might and your energy.
Yeah. Well, him saying he feels a heartbeat running through, you know, that's the best description I've ever heard of how bad it really is.
It's permanent damage.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I know a lot of these children's homes and stuff have retrospectively been done for sexual abuse.
Yeah.
I'm not sure any of them, well, the schools, for example, haven't retrospectively been done for physical abuse. And you're like, why is that not taken as seriously? It's as damaging.
Can we leap ahead to the next school? Because I think this crosses the line into sexual abuse.
Yeah.
The way okay, so the next school he goes to, when the headmaster whips the boys, their trousers are down, so it's their bare ass.
Yeah.
He takes his time. He stokes his pipe. He's wandering around them with their bare ass, talking to them about how they shouldn't do this and they should get better at that, blah, blah, blah. Lights his pipe, has a little puff, does a whip on the ass, stokes his pipe some more, wanders around, talks much. He's really, really getting into it.
Yeah, really
taking his time.
It.
Now, that is perverse.
Yeah.
That's sexual, and that's seriously very bad and very criminal. And then he drops in that this headmaster later became the Archbishop of Canterbury and crowned Queen Elizabeth II.
Yes.
That he became legendary and well respected, and he's a perverted bastard. And I'm so glad that he named and shamed this bloke.
Well, you know what? This kind of behaviour is just endemic in...
it is. British school system.
Yeah, and the upper classes, aristocracy.
Yeah.
I mean, you scratch the surface and it's all there.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
God.
what Roald Dahl actually says, because he became the Archbishop, well, I don't know if it's because but he was a man of God then, and he was obviously perverse, that it gave him doubts about God.
Yes.
So that actually ruined religion for him.
Yeah, 100%.
Probably helpful.
What's interesting is reading a lot of these books now, the ones that are affiliated to Jesus in some way, like Whitney Houston, Liberace, and now Roald Dahl, it's like people who are involved in the church work out as children, actually, this is a bunch of hypocrites.
Yeah.
They are not doing what they are saying, what they are telling us to do. They preach the word of God in kindness, but actually what they do themselves is quite the opposite. So they all lose their faith,
Whitney
question their faith.
Questioned.
Yeah.
And now we need to talk about what inspired Charlie the Chocolate Factory, because it's brilliant.
Ah, yeah. I was jealous reading this.
Yeah. Cadbury's, they selected their school to test chocolate. They sent a box of 12 chocolates per boy. Imagine them all laid out, the different flavours, and their job was to taste them, but write a little essay about what they thought about each one. Obviously, Roald Dahl is a writer. He just didn't know it then. He loved chocolate and he loves writing. He's got amazing imagination.
He says that some of his feedback, he said it really started evolving and he ate one of the chocolates and his comment was, I fear this is too subtle for the common palate.
And he's obviously so impressed with his own writing, he's remembered that comment.
You can see how exciting that would be to be a kid at a school to get a box of chocolates to test.
Exactly. Just that thing that happened to him has sparked the most amazing books. Because Charlie and the Chocolate Factory sparked everybody's imagination thanks to that incident.
So Cadbury's,
yeah.
did they ever end up sponsoring Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
And the Great Glass Elevator followed that.
Did it?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
It's the follow-up to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Is it?
Yes. Listen, right, if you don't read all these books, if we have a break from this, you can read Roald Dahl books because they're brilliant.
Are they? They're for children, aren't they?
No! For everyone.
Are they for everyone?
They really are. They're brilliant. Yes, that's the end of Boy.
The first instalment of his autobiography. Let's be honest, they're both quite small. It could have been one book.
One book.
Yeah.
But I also get that you might not want to talk about war and people having their heads chopped. Oh, I'm not going to give a spoiler.
No spoilers. Well, let's go straight into it. So the second book is going solo and he's got a job with Shell and he's on his way to East Africa.
Yes.
So at the age of 22, he's on a big ship going across the ocean. He's on his way because he's got a job with the Shell Petroleum Company. And he's going to Africa.
England to East Africa, which takes 2 weeks. on this
imagine
boat. And it's another time, isn't it?
It sure is. It's a tail end of the British Empire, colonialism, yes.
And he collects a few characters from that. They're fascinating.
They are, but they're all a certain type of person, of course, because at that time it's only a certain type of person who is travelling like that. Yeah.
He calls them the empire building breed. And he says, I feel very lucky to have caught the end of this breed of people who are now extinct.
These inbred nutters.
And they're all a bit insane.
They are a bit insane.
And they all know they're insane.
But isn't that the curse of the upper classes?
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah.
I kind of got that it was a lot of weird.
Inbred.
Yeah, weird. No, just weird people.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes for an entertaining read.
Yeah, well, you can see why people write books like Agatha Christie, who was around this time going on these expeditions of archaeology, collecting these characters. They were out there. And
because I've not read a Roald Dahl book, are these the kind of characters that would kind of be in his children's books?
I very much think that these eccentric, bizarre characters in children's stories that seem exaggerated will be collected from a lot of these people of his life. Yeah,
no, there are some funny people in it.
Yeah, there are, aren't there?
I like the woman who eats an orange with a knife and a fork.
Yeah, because she will not touch any food with her fingers at all.
Yeah, because fingers are dirty.
Yeah.
Fingers are filthy.
Yeah.
She's right, actually, though, because she said there's bugs in your fingers. Oh, and do you know what? Even after you've washed your hands, if you put your fingers under a microscope, there's microscopic bugs. I could only imagine that's what she was on about. I mean, they don't hurt you.
Well, look, we're still alive. I've been using my fingers for years.
No, but they work with you. They're friendly bugs.
Oh,
they clean your skin.
No.
Okay. Is that why you're wearing gloves right now?
No, my hands were cold.
Do you eat an orange with a knife and a fork?
No.
Well, you're going to start,
I don't fancy trying it because he had a go and he said it's quite fun.
I bet it is fun.
But, okay, so he stuck his head out the window. It's a little porthole in this cabin. He's sharing a cabin.
Oh, my God, the guy he's sharing with, that is funny.
Best name ever. UN Savoury.
Yeah, but he made that up, right?
No way.
What?
Because you can't make it up half the time. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, because it's just absurd.
So absurd.
Okay.
And the fact he remembered that, he must be writing this book as an old man.
I think he's making it up.
I don't.
I think he's made quite a bit of this book up.
You are always the devil's advocate with these things.
He's a storyteller.
He is a storyteller.
Oh, there's one. Okay, I was kind of... We'll get to it in a minute. There's one story in this which I just think, oh, bullshit.
Really?
Yeah.
You are so cynical because to me, life is crazier things couldn't happen than life itself. And that's why people write stories.
We'll keep talking, but when we get to it, I'll shout, I'll call BS.
Anyway, oh no. He's called UN Savoury. Anyway, he's showing his...
He's not called UN Savoury. He's called Mr. Smith.
No.
And it was such a boring name. Roald Dahl, the great storyteller. Oh, it would be funny if I call him UN Savoury.
Okay, these are our differing opinions. Anybody is entitled to choose a side. My side. Anyway, the reason we know his name is because it's on the case that's under his bed. The mysterious case that he's always wondering what's in it. Mm-hmm. He's sitting on his top bunk and he's watching his cabin mate, UN Savoury,
Mr. Smith,
get ready. And he's slicking back his hair, and then he notices him get something out, sprinkles it on his head, and he goes out. So he goes, "What was it?" And he has a look in his case, and it was Epsom salt. Why on earth would he be sprinkling? And then he goes to the bar, and he's going, "Oh no, I've got dandruff." Brushes it off, makes a big show of it, saying, "Have you got anything for it?" And somebody recommends his stuff, and so he thinks this is very strange. And then a few days later, he has to go back for his pipe and surprises his cabin mate putting on a wig because he's bald. And he's really upset. But when he says, I won't tell anybody, he says, okay, well, look, I've got 4 wigs. He's got 4 wigs in this case. So that when you're away for 4 weeks, you can slightly grow it every week and then make a big show of saying you're going to the hairdressers and start again with the shorter one. And he says because in the Punjab, people like hair's sacred and no one respects a bald man.
Right.
So he goes to all these lengths to convince people to say, it's just stuff like that.
Yeah.
The characters in this...
That's committing to the role, isn't it?
It's great. Yeah, anyway, he sticks his head out the window one very early morning, looking up and down the deck, taking in the air, and he sees coming along a naked man jogging. I can't be seeing straight, and he gets closer and he goes, "Lovely morning, bracing, eh?" And jogs on by. I can't have just seen that. When he pops his head out again. Was it the next morning he pops his head out to see if it was real? Oh, he keeps coming round. He's jogging round and round, doing 50 laps of the deck. The next morning he sticks his head out to see this again. And this time his naked wife's joining him. "Oh, you just popped your hat for an eyeful of the lady wife, have you?" It's just things like this. It's so bizarre. I think these are the real crazy people of the empire that have...
Yeah, they're a weird breed.
Is that entitlement? It's like you say, the upper classes. You're so entitled, you can do anything you want.
You're so entitled that you'll go across half the world and colonise the country.
Well, yes. Yeah, okay, that's the first
And
clue.
once you've done that, it's nothing to run around the deck of a naked.
Well, to be honest, yes. Christ, yes. The sad truth is yes.
But it makes for a funny story in a book.
I do. I see these stories like paintings. It's like giving us a lot of paintings and portraits of characters and places. It's great, isn't it? I love that.
When he's on the boat going to East Africa, they pass a boat full of women.
Yeah. Italians.
They are being shipped out by Mussolini to service the Italian army, who are stuck in this hopeless war massacring the Abyssinians.
Yeah.
And he sends them out to boost morale.
Yeah.
That's disgraceful.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
It's
There's no way they know what they're going... Well, I doubt they know.
Well, how would they get 1,000 women on a boat? Say they're going on a holiday to...
I don't know.
And they said, because Roald Dahl can't believe what he's seeing, and he talks to somebody on his boat. He says they're being sent out for the Italian soldiers. There's 1 woman for a soldier, 2 for a general, and 3 for a sergeant. Right. It's like, that's disgusting. But hey, that's Mussolini. What do they care about women?
Well, what do they care about anybody? Massacring tons of people. Ah, no,
that's just a whole thousands of women were being sent out.
Prostituted out. There's no way that was what they all were signed up for.
It's not even prostituted. They're not getting anything for it, are they? Just being spunk receptacles for Italian soldiers. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That's disgusting. We must not miss that out. But we all know Mussolini's the bad guy.
We do know that. And do you know what? Roald Dahl, actually, he was very... I'm sorry, I'm just going to find this in the book. I waved to the girls on the other ship, and about 2,000 of them waved back.
2,000?
So, no, he actually says they seemed very cheerful. I wondered how long they would be feeling that way. So that's interesting, actually, that Roald Dahl, as a young man, actually, after he got the spectacle of there being 2,000 women on the ship, immediately kind of thought, damn.
Yeah.
Because it's just disgusting. Anyway, but he soon gets to East Africa. Well, he gets to a port, and then he gets another day.
Zanzibar, and then he's in Dar es Salaam, which looks like paradise, tropical paradise in those days.
And this is in what is now Tanzania.
And he gets to the Shell Company place, which is run by only 3 Englishmen.
And he's the youngest of them, right? And they live in a very nice house, a house of luxury.
House. Yeah. And they're each assigned a boy. His boy is really a man of 19. And he's a tribesman called Madisho, from a warrior tribe.
Don't you find it weird that a tribesman comes to work at a... Why a tribesman?
They put his backstory in. He lost both of his parents.
Oh, that's right.
He went to work for somebody else, then he lost that job, and he got this job, and it was a really good job for him. So, yeah, that's how.
So the white people took advantage of an orphaned young black boy.
No.
I mean, it's what happened.
Everything the British do abroad ever is despicable.
No, it is.
It is.
No, it is.
I know.
Yeah, I know, but...
Who are you arguing with?
But we're reading a book in that environment, so we can't do it without bringing it up.
No.
We've completely gone over to Africa and colonised it, and now we're hiring tribespeople to come and wait on us hand and foot. It's horrible.
Yes.
But Roald Dahl is a very nice young man. So if you did have to be a tribesperson looking after a white man, it's better that it's Roald Dahl, right?
It is better. He got lucky. I mean, he comes across as the only nice white man in Africa. But of course, he wrote the book.
That's the book should be called.
He wrote the book,
The book with the only nice white man in Africa.
Yeah. What they did with the petrol, basically, they went round making sure all the companies and individual people had their petrol and oil and serviced. And,
What you mean, like the nice English diamond mines and gold mines
Yeah.
and cotton plantations?
But you're quite right, it's bloody terrible.
Yeah.
It's absolutely dreadful. But this lad's just on an adventure from London and he can't believe
Helping
the things
the-
he's seeing. Yeah, helping the terrible empire.
People that are exploiting black people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the background to this book. Look, now we've mentioned it. No, it's easy for us to sit here and say, now we've mentioned it, let's go back to enjoying the book. It's just a very real part of our history.
It is.
And we shouldn't gloss over it,
No.
actually. And we should go to the British Museum and make them give everything back.
Yeah, yeah. And he doesn't talk about the politics at all. He just talks about his own experiences. As he saw it, age 22. Just the way he saw it.
Here's the thing.
Country,
It's kind of like, that's
people.
not what this book is.
No, it
There are
isn't.
plenty of books
That will
written
get right
at that
into
time.
the
Yeah,
history.
that do that.
Which we need to read.
Yeah, we will. It just depends what's in the thrift shops when
Yeah.
we go there. Do you know what's amazing? But we started doing this podcast about celebrity biographies, right? Kind of thinking, oh, it'd just be a bit of fun. It's actually really educated me and inspired me to find out more about war and politics and the
Yeah,
state of the
yeah.
world. I never expected that. And it's really interested me in it as well.
Yeah.
But I feel on the back foot all the time because I feel like I'm talking about things here like colonialism and the exploitation of black people, not quite knowing
No, but
the
some
depths of
books
it.
get... Okay,
Doubt
there are
about.
books that go into the politics behind it. This one does not.
Yeah.
It's just telling it like a
Okay.
young 22-year-old lad saw it. So his experiences and describing the land and the trees and the animals
Yeah.
and the
So we need to
people.
accept this book for what it is. I
It
need
is.
to get over it for the sake of Roald Dahl in the end of this
Yeah,
book. So we
just
finish
some
this
light
podcast
storytelling of
at a
one
reasonable
lad's,
hour.
one lad's
Okay.
experiences. But you're right, bring that up.
Yeah, I felt awkward that it being such a nice, entertaining book, thinking, hang on, what's the backdrop here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really dark and it just gets darker. Here's a story he comes up with. He's visiting the district officer and his family, and they're talking about all sorts of random things, just inconsequential things, when the cook starts yelling, Simba, Simba. There's a lion who's taken his wife. He's yelling, and they look over and they see a lion with the wife dangling from his mouth there, and she's limp, and he's running off with the cook's wife in his mouth.
Nonsense.
Why would he tell this story?
This is the one I was on about earlier. But I
Okay.
didn't believe a word of
He
it.
actually said this story became legendary and people talked about it and they said it became a myth.
Urban legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, well then the urban legends aren't true.
But if you take the reality of this story out of this book or any
Okay.
other, what are we reading?
Let's take
Fiction?
fiction.
He's written loads of fiction.
Yeah, this is a fictional
This
bit
is his
to make.
fiction.
Okay, let's think about this story from the beginning.
Yeah.
You're honestly wanting me to believe
Yes.
that a lion came and snatched a woman,
Yes.
run off with her in his mouth,
Yes.
and they chased him and shot at him, and then the lion eventually put the woman down, and she got up, and there wasn't even a tear in
Well,
her
he
dress.
couldn't believe it either.
Because he made it up.
Look, what's it? Dingbat stole my baby or whatever.
Ding-
Things
a
happen.
dingo.
I tell you,
Yeah, but the baby,
life is
the
stranger
baby,
than fiction.
the baby disappeared, never to be seen again. That's quite real.
Or did it?
If the lion took
Or
away,
do I believe that?
Well, there
Well.
was a whole court case because they thought the
I
mother
know.
did it.
All right then. The wolf ate the grandma and then dressed as her.
Fiction.
Oh yeah, that one is. Well, what's the point? I can't tell the story now. You've ruined
You've
it.
told it,
Oh,
haven't you?
well, you did. I think.
No, you said that the lion came and snatched the woman
Yeah, and you finished it in disbelief.
because it's a very disbelieving
Yeah, it's
story.
really great when you read it and believe it, like I do. It's really entertaining and amazing.
Okay, sorry that I've spoiled your enjoyment of that made-up story.
You
Go
haven't,
ahead.
because I totally believe it. Nature, people, bizarre.
Well, okay, can we just think about it logically? If a lion is not going to eat a woman,
He's taking it away to have later.
he's picked himself up a takeaway.
Yes.
Do they not have Deliveroo in the jungle?
It's so surreal. The cook's chasing the lion. The friend, the officer, is chasing him, going, get out the way, I need to shoot the lion, get out the way. And Roald Dahl's chasing them all just because he thinks he should. So there's this ridiculous line of people shouting and the lion's at the front with the wife in the mouth. It's so ridiculous. That's why I think it's real. Well, also, it never occurred to me it wasn't. Right, you don't have to come round. You can have your opinion, I can have mine.
Okay. So it's not long. I mean, he's not been in Tanzania for a year when World War II. But this amazed me, actually. I had no idea that when war begins and they're not quite ready, that the officers phone up the young Englishmen in that country and say, right, you're officers now.
Yeah.
Do this, do that.
Yeah.
It's like they have no training.
Yeah.
Never fired a gun.
There's no one else to do it.
Yeah, not even like confident enough to talk to a group full of people or anything, but all of a sudden they're pushed right to the front.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They said, right, we're at war, you're in charge over there.
Yeah.
I mean, I was amazed by that.
And also that thing where all the people from that country are suddenly prisoners of war.
I had no idea that if England all of a sudden is at war with Germany, then the English and German people in Tanzania are suddenly involved in war.
Yeah.
And Tanzania is involved in
it's nuts, isn't
war.
it?
It's like, why can't they just stay there and avoid the war?
I didn't know that, because for some reason I knew that all the Japanese in Hawaii got rounded up and put in a prisoner of war camp.
Did they?
It's my friend's family that happened to them. That's a similar sort of, it's the same thing.
This is why I need to learn more, is because why then do the English have to round up the Germans? Is it because Tanzania is part of the British Empire at that point, so they're in charge, and if they catch Germans they can put them in a prisoner of war camp?
Yes, but in the middle of that thing with the Germans, they said, why do you have to capture us? They said, well, if you get out of here and you go to the nearest country, you will then join them and be enemies against us.
Okay.
So we can't let that happen.
Right. I would never have even
Because
remotely...
you're just civilians.
Yeah.
But civilians are soldiers. Oh, I know, it's nuts. So then what happened?
So, well, then Roald Dahl becomes a temporary officer, and he has a group of Askari, right, which are native people to Tanzania, that he commandeered to do the English war effort. But anyway, he's in charge of a load of people who aren't used to using guns, and they create a border, don't they?
They have to put a blockade on a road because when war's declared, that's the only way out of that town.
And they come.
Yeah,
the
so
German
they put a blockade, and then the rest of them are in the jungle hidden with their guns,
right,
ready to shoot. And he says, please, could we at least have a warning shot? So they said, yeah, the signal is when they come, you put your hand in the air and we'll fire a warning shot and take it from there, sort of thing. Because he said, please don't just shoot people.
Yeah.
You can't bear the thought of it. And within half an hour, the convoy comes of every single German.
Yeah, of course, they're trying to flee as fast as they can.
All together. They've planned it. It's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
And seeing it through his eyes again,
Yeah.
and he's having to act like he's got some power, and he doesn't feel it at all.
No, of
he's
course
terrified.
not. He's just a young man.
Yeah.
He didn't train for this.
Yeah. He's like, you have to go back. And this bold bloke gets out of the Jeep.
From the front of the German convoy,
and everyone that gets out of all the cars, there's a whole crowd of these Germans that he's speaking, going, you have to let us through. Why won't you let us through? Just basically yelling at him, you've got to go back. You're now prisoners of war. And the lead bald man is saying, move the blockade, we're going through. Roald Dahl puts his hands up and they think it's in surrender. Warning shots are fired. And that scares them. Then he gets a gun out, puts it up to Roald Dahl's head and yells into the forest, we will kill him. You must let us through. And suddenly, to the horror of Roald Dahl, this bald man's face is shot through. He says it's absolutely horrifying thing to see.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. He does tell it like he sees it.
But it's written like a children's book. It's a bit of a juxtaposition.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
No, I don't. Don't think it's just a different type of storytelling.
Yeah.
He's actually talking about some horrendous things.
Horrendous things. So he doesn't skimp on the details of the horrendous things, but anyway, he doesn't use big words.
No, he doesn't use big words.
Yeah.
It's like James and the Giant Peach if somebody had their face shot off. Yeah. So that makes the Germans...
it's absolutely hideous. And they put his body in the back of the Jeep, let's drive you all to the camp, and off they all go. It's really terrible. To be honest, they're probably safer there than they would be anywhere else.
Well, he succeeded in being a temporary officer, didn't he? Job done. Unfortunately, a German guy got shot in the head, but...
So that's the beginning of the war, and it gets a lot worse, obviously.
Oh, God. And he goes home after that.
He goes
back to the house.
Back to the house, sits there having a drink, relaxing.
Yeah, relaxing after that horrendous experience. And he notices his ceremonial sword is gone from the wall. And also his boy, Madisho, is also missing. And he's like, oh crap, what's going on? So he runs around looking for Medishu, can't find him anywhere. Oh, what we should say, at the beginning of the war, before Roald Dahl goes off, Medishu is very excited about the prospect of a war.
Yeah. And he's going, can we kill all the Germans?
He can't wait to kill people. Because obviously he's a tribes person. That's what they do. That's kind of what I got from this a bit. But anyway, then Roald Dahl is imagining the worst. And he's right to imagine the worst, actually, because Medishu comes back a few hours later with the sword covered in blood. And it's because Medishu knows we're at war with the Germans. And he knows there's a German a couple hours over.
He's run the whole way back. The German, when he finds it, he says he was a really nasty piece of work, this particular man.
It sounds like he was a landowner and had a lot of staff and treated his, he's a bad white man in Africa.
Yeah, he's a very bad white man. No, he does sound like it.
Yeah, no, he definitely is.
And he was burning papers when he got there. Medishu ran straight up to him before he had a chance to move because he had a rifle by his side and just sliced his head off in one swoosh and then ran all the way back in triumph.
Yeah.
And honestly, he just thought he'd be a hero. He really did. So Roald Dahl sees the danger in this and thinks if the police know about this, he will probably be arrested for murder. And so he talks him out of telling anyone because he desperately wants to tell people.
Yes, because of course you're only supposed to kill people in war according to our English rules. And this is the last we see of Medishu now because Roald Dahl is off. Up and away.
He decides to join the RAF. I mean, he could have joined any part of the army, but he thinks flying will be a massive thrill.
Yeah,
it was for the 8 months he wasn't in combat.
But you know what? He's like 6'4", and the planes aren't built for people that are 6'4". It sounded very uncomfortable.
Bit cramped. Well, there's a couple of planes that were absolutely brutal for him, but so there's a lovely time where he's describing his training period and just flying all over Africa, and he's in a tiger moth plane and that can do loops and upside down, and I mean 6 months they were just 16 of them being trained in those planes.
But is it that they're only single-seater planes? They can't be with you while they're teaching. They basically tell you a few things and say, right, get up in the sky. And you're just learning from being in a plane.
But 6 months every single day. There's 16 of these lads were up there flying, seeing the world from above, seeing herds of elephants and antelopes, big groups, all this amazing world he's seeing from above. But they're not trained in combat.
Right, yes.
Which you don't, when you're reading it, you're like, this is amazing, and he's really enjoying it. And then he's got another 2 months somewhere else where he's in a different type of aeroplane. And then when he's finally sent up to be in combat, he's like, well, no one's trained me. What do I actually do? Don't know how to fire a gun. I don't know how to deal with... The bloke has to give him basic pointers. If someone's behind you, you never take your eye off the rearview mirror. If you don't aim the gun, you aim the plane. The plane aims at... And he just verbally gives him one evening's worth of... After 8 months training. And then sticks him in a plane he's never driven before as well after 2 days. And he says, I think this lack of training is what caused such a massive loss of life.
I mean, it's a miracle Roald Dahl is still alive. And also, they're heavily outnumbered as well. It almost seems futile, even sending them off.
Utterly futile. 16 of them that trained, only 3 survived, including Roald Dahl. And I can't help thinking, because I've loved this man's stories all my life, what else didn't we get?
Yeah,
and that's from the whole of any war ever, but all those people that didn't make it, who would they have been? Would they have cured cancer? Would they have given us some great music? Would they have, or would they just be, no, but they're not here, they never made it. It's such an absolute complete waste. People. It's bad.
No, I did totally agree. The war is bad. Well, I think it was Boy George that said war is stupid.
And people are stupid.
So, but he's soon up and he's flying about and he's in the war, isn't he? He's in the war in the sky.
Is it? Oh, you know what happens straight off before he even got in the war?
Does he crash before he...
Yeah, bloody does.
And that's because one of his superiors sent him in the wrong direction.
Yeah, he said, oh, fly this plane to join your people. Pointed on a map, this is where they are. It was like... miles off from where they actually were. So when he came to land, it got dark.
Yeah,
by then. He couldn't
find it.
He said, you can't miss it. That's where it is.
And it was
Had to
dark.
land. The
He's
plane's
running
run
out of
petrol.
fuel.
Crash landed.
Yeah, where he comes down on the desert, which is full of boulders, and he tries his hardest to avoid them, but unfortunately he does hit one eventually, and he dives a plane, and he injures himself significantly.
Yes. And he describes dragging himself away through like the effort it took to get himself away from the heat. And he finally gets rescued by British people and taken to hospital, where he is for 8...
Well, he can't see.
4 months.
Yeah, he's been completely blinded.
Absolutely blinded. And he's there for 4 months in recovery. Mm-hmm. Amazingly gets his eyesight back. I love how he falls in love with the nurse.
That he can't see.
Right up to the point when he sees her.
I know.
She's more beautiful than he imagined, but she's real.
Yeah, I found that really weird. I honestly thought this was going to end up being his wife. I think
it's fascinating. This is why I think he's brilliant. Just the philosophy of that. An illusion is always going to beat reality.
I have it. It's right here. She was a lovely looking girl, much nicer. So sorry, this is when she's been nursing him and wiping his eyes every day. He's opening them a little bit more, a little bit more.
He loves her voice. He's totally in love with her.
He says, she was a lovely looking girl. You are even more beautiful than I imagined, I said. Well, thank you, she said. She was certainly lovely. She was gentle and kind. She remained my friend all the time I was in hospital. But there is a world of difference between falling in love with a voice and remaining in love with a person you can see. From the moment I opened my eyes, she became a human instead of a dream, and my passion evaporated.
I love that. I think that's fascinating. It's honest.
It's bizarre, actually.
Do you think?
I really thought that was going to end up being his wife.
Ah.
And it was just, and even though he acknowledges that she's more beautiful than he imagined.
But the difference, it's like radio. Something's gone into your head.
Okay.
You've completely created almost a godlike voice or an idea of something that's like an angel.
It's like the people listening to us right now. They're imagining angels. And
That's right.
Oh my God. And the passion is going to evaporate when they see us in real life. Sorry, everyone. So he can see now, but he's really getting bad migraines and things. He's had a bad head injury, so he's not fit to fly, right? And he's devastated about that. But he is in recuperation a bit longer, and eventually they do sign him off to fly. Yeah. I question whether he actually ever is. Because he's eventually signed off as an invalid. When that's how he comes out of the war. I actually think he should have been right now. Even though what happens is amazing.
Yeah, I do. But he still did his job. He did it well, and by flipping luck, though, you can't say it's skill.
Oh, God.
He survived. And he got sent home as soon as he started having debilitating headaches and blacking out way later.
Okay.
So he was able to do his job.
Well, he was deemed that way, and he was soon back up in the sky again, wasn't he?
At that point, they've invested 8 months in training him and 4 months in getting him through a hospital. It's a big investment. Mm-hmm. He hasn't even seen combat. And
at the end of the day, they're expecting him just to get shot down anyway, so it's just one more.
You know what? It's really, when a soldier gets shot down, terrible. You've also killed a plane. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's such a stupid waste of everything.
Well, you know, the more planes that are ruined in war, the more planes they can make, which means the big businesses keep making money.
That's true.
War is all about profit.
That's so true. Anyway, so he got posted out to where did he get posted out to in the end? Greece.
Greece.
And again, he just describes beautiful blue waters and the white buildings with the orange roofs. It's like Mamma Mia from the air. The goats on the mountains and this beautiful land. Out of that site, all this coast, come these black
Messerschmitts.
There's like 20 to 1?
Yeah, German planes. They got loads of them. How can Germany have so many out there when we had like 7 planes? Why are they so much more prepared in a faraway land?
I don't understand, because they were spreading themselves thin as well. They were trying to conquer the entire world almost at the same time. So how could they still have that much of everything? I don't know. I just wonder if Hitler was just so focused on war that he was over-prepared. Possible.
I mean, he did start it.
I don't know.
Anyway, we don't have to worry ourselves.
We don't have to worry about it.
So what's he doing with the Messerschmitts? He's gone into battle with them. I thought it was interesting because obviously he's not a soldier. He's chosen to go with the RAF, but he doesn't want to kill anyone.
He really doesn't.
And when he shoots that first plane down, he's horrified because it starts going down. The black smoke starts billowing out, and he says he can see the pilot eject.
Parachute out. He's so relieved.
Yeah, he's so relieved they never actually killed anyone.
I know, but that's just the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, he does how many flights and how...
Does he actually say that he kills people?
He doesn't know. He probably did. Because it's just such a bloody mess.
Yeah.
And actually, he remembers a couple of these early journeys out, flights really vividly. Then he says it kind of all goes into a blur after that.
Of course, when there's 7 of you fighting, heavily outnumbered, and you're going to battle, it's just a shit show, isn't it?
Trying not to get hit the whole time.
So actually, they said that the German planes were falling, but they could not tell who was shooting who or anything. Yeah. And when they got back down, nobody knew who it was who hit with that plane. Yeah. I think they were just up there gunning like crazy.
It's really vividly told, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. It was thrilling, actually.
Yeah. Twice he mentions that he was so close to the German bombers that he saw their moustaches. Properly see their faces. He could describe what they were wearing. You could see their uniforms and hats and moustaches. Yeah. I mean, that's when it's really, really real and horrifying.
It's an actual miracle that Roald Dahl survived the war, having no...
It really is.
Yeah.
Because, skip to the journey home, the eventual journey home where he's on a big ship, there's 4 ships crossing the Atlantic. Only his ship makes it. The rest are bombed. Yeah. So whole ships on their way home
it's almost like
don't make it.
Choosing a lottery what boat you're even going home on.
The fact we've got these stories out of this man is a miracle. Okay, so we're about to get to the point where he's defending an ammunition ship.
Yes,
I mean,
wow.
Another farce. He does completely call out the British choices all the time. They are letting them die by being incompetent at running this war. The choices they're making are absolutely disastrous. There's a bloody ammunition ship in the Greek harbour for a couple of weeks because every time he's going up...
Yeah, they take it in turns to guard it.
Defend this from the air. It's insane. One stray bullet, bomb, whatever, is going to blow that thing up. And eventually, of course, it does.
Yeah.
But why is that... Even he says, why is that sat there?
I have to say, it was very strange to read about a munitions tanker blowing up in the Greek Sea, which spills all of the oil out, which obviously is now on fire, and the crew of that ship having to jump off the boat into the burning oil, frying alive. But to read that in Roald Dahl language is a bit surreal, really, because it's like a children's book.
Well, you keep saying that. That's how you read it.
It's horrifying imagery.
Yeah.
But it's kind of written quite sweetly.
Oh, wow. I didn't take it
really?
at all. Yeah. I think it's through his eyes. He's horrified by what he's seeing, but he's still this young person who's seeing the world. Everything's so new to him. He's awed by it. He's absorbing everything. He's collecting it, actually, is what he's doing. But he's horrified, but he's so amazed to be alive in some ways. You know what I mean?
I'm amazed he's alive.
Every experience he's having, he's amazed to be having it.
I mean, honestly, if most of the war was run like Roald Dahl's experience, it is a bit of a miracle we're not all talking German now.
Very true. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it was
absolute cock-up.
Yeah. And, you know, we're lucky that he's lucky to be alive, and we're lucky we won.
Yeah. I mean, he calls it a fiasco in the book. He didn't think he'd survive it at all. All of them are saying...
Well, they weren't expected to.
We will get killed.
Yeah.
And then
but he did.
He suddenly gets these debilitating headaches. I'm surprised you don't call bullshit on that.
Oh my God, I've got a terrible headache. Can I go home now? Yeah.
He's having blackouts. Suddenly starts having blackouts. I get it. But they know he's had a brain injury, so they send him straight home. And then he phones home and his house has been bombed and his mum had been in the cellar.
Oh, yeah, he has to track her down.
Eventually he gets a bus and his mum's standing there waiting, and it's just lovely.
We hadn't seen him for 3 years. In fact, when somebody dies in the war, the family receive a telegram. But when he had his injury, they sent a telegram to inform them that he had sustained an injury and he was in long-term rehabilitation in the hospital. She didn't open it because she thought it was a telegram that he was dead. And then when his sister came, they opened it together and it said he was in hospital. But they hadn't seen them for 3 years.
Yeah. And I hadn't heard from him for a long time during his journey home. It's lovely, him getting back and seeing his mum. Yeah. And knowing he's going to be all right. He's going to live to write us loads of nice stories. Amazing stories with an amazing imagination. That doesn't justify him making up stories about lions,
I was just
but
wondering
he
what
does
happened.
have an amazing imagination.
What happened to the lion?
And
Perhaps that's what calling the debilitating head pains is the imaginary lion.
No. And that's Great
Really-
Missenden. She moved to Great Missenden. That's where he ended up spending the rest of his days. It's
But-
so lovely because they never moved from that place. Where he went home to on that bus is where the
They all
family
still
still
are.
has a base. And it's lovely countryside. So it's a happy ending.
He's dead.
That's just life, weirdly. I mean, he bloody survived the war
Yeah.
and
wrote
lived
loads of good books.
and really brighten up millions of people's
You
lives.
love him, don't you?
Yes.
Oh.
He's cold.
Well, no, it's just that he's a children's entertainer and I'm not interested in anything that he writes. So even as a child, though, those books were around. I just was never motivated to read them. I don't think I really read any children's books. I like Star Wars and Grease.
There's
The film, not the country.
they're darker than you might think. A lot of them, bit like
are
a
they?
proper Victorian.
Oh, like a Grimm's fairy
They're
tale.
not as grim as Grimm's, but if you know, they're not. You know,
Yeah.
but they are dark and. I mean, bloody hell! That Matilda film I just watched is pretty depressing and
Is it?
dark. Yeah,
it?
It's just a little girl who's constantly battling evil adults. Absolutely constantly. She's totally alone. It's heavy. You know, he might present it for kids, but he
Yeah.
doesn't shy away from the realities of life.
Okay.
So he's taken these lessons and tells people the truth. He's the sort of person, I bet he talks straight to a kid. Well, he does in his books.
Mm-hmm.
He talks straight to you, like not patronising, like you're an adult.
Is he a sir?
He's dead.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Thrift Shop Biography. We love making this podcast and we're absolutely thrilled that so many of you are already listening. We're new to this and you could really help us out by leaving us a review somewhere, wherever you listen to this podcast. And if you could share us, tell your friends about us or drop some links on social media. We have a Facebook page called Thrift Shop Biography, so make sure you come over there to hear about the episodes first and what else we're up to. Okay, see you next week. And if you're new here, there are loads more episodes now to go and listen in the back catalogue, so make sure you go and enjoy them. Okay, thank you very much.